Welcome to the debate. Okay, picture this. You're scrolling through your phone, right? And a post has exactly 11,111 likes. A bit later, you glance at the clock, boom, 111. Then you get a receipt for, what, $1.11. That feeling, that really distinct jolt of recognition, that almost gut feeling that the universe is maybe trying to nudge you, it's incredibly powerful, isn't it? This universal human impulse, to find profound meaning in patterns, especially with numbers and cosmic stuff. It's a theme that keeps popping up in NeonKore Media's The Deep Dive series. Today, we're really digging into a central question that threads through episodes like The Secret Language of Numbers, Decoding Reality, and even Cosmic Currents and Ancient Wisdom.
It is powerful, yeah. That feeling it's undeniable. A strong pull to connect dots, look for something deeper. It feels fundamental, I agree.
Exactly. So our core question, the real debate here, is this. When we look at this human impulse to assign real meaning to patterns, numbers, celestial events, that sort of thing, is it a valid, insightful way to navigate reality, maybe even foster personal growth? Or is it mainly just a product of our own psychological biases, maybe a search for external control because the world feels so uncertain? I'll be making the case that this impulse, it represents a pretty profound, often universal path to self-awareness, a kind of expanded understanding and just a richer engagement with reality itself.
And I'll be arguing that while the subjective experience is certainly real, these interpretations, they largely stem from inherent psychological tendencies we all have. They lack objective verification, and honestly, sometimes they can be disempowering or even leave people open to exploitation.
Right. And look, this isn't some New Age fad. The drive to find meaning in numbers goes way back. The Secret Language of Numbers really highlighted how ancient civilizations, you're talking Babylonia, Egypt, China, Greece, they all wrestled with this. Remember Pythagoras? He believed numbers were the key components to everything, the very essence of reality, like the universe's code. This impulse, which we now often call numerology, it keeps surfacing because I think it speaks to a really fundamental human need for meaning, for guidance, maybe just a sense of order when things feel chaotic. So when people see these angel numbers, 999 for completion, 777 for inner wisdom, 888 for abundance, it's not just randomness. It feels like a personal message, right? Like cosmic cheerleading, as the episode put it. These systems, whether it's single digits as archetypes, 3 for creativity, 7 for introspection, 9 for idealism, or the zodiacs, Western or Chinese, they offer what I see as a more multidimensional view of ourselves. They genuinely help foster self-awareness, acting like an internal compass for your own unique inner landscape. And, as Decoding Reality asks, what if our usual definition of reality is just, far too narrow? These experiences, I believe, they might be tapping into a different kind of intelligence, maybe subconscious wisdom that simple explanations just don't capture.
Okay, I can definitely appreciate the history, the persistence of it, and the genuine comfort people find. I really do. However, I'm coming at this from a slightly different angle. While that feeling of significance is, yes, undeniably powerful and feels intensely real to the person experiencing it, the scientific community generally classifies numerology and similar practices as pseudoscience. Now, that's not meant to dismiss the personal feeling, but to point out it lacks reliable, consistent predictive power in a way we can scientifically verify. That's different from, say, rigorous scientific forecasting. My main point really revolves around the powerful and often quite subtle psychological tendencies that drive this impulse. Take confirmation bias, for instance. We're all wired to look for information that confirms what we already believe. Once you notice 1.11, you kind of subconsciously start looking for it more, right? And you ignore all the other times on the clock? Then there's the Barnum-Four effect. That's the tendency for people to accept vague, general descriptions, like you might find in a horoscope or a numerology reading, as being specifically and accurately about them. It feels personal, but it's often quite generic. We also saw in The Secret Language of Numbers how symbolic meaning, even for something like a jersey number, can be, leveraged. The whole NCAA example generating billions from player likenesses including jersey numbers, while historically fighting compensation. It shows how easily symbolic meaning can be co-opted by structures of power. The comfort and control people feel from seeing patterns, that's real, psychologically, but it doesn't automatically mean it's pointing to an objective truth or some kind of external guidance. It often just reflects our mind's amazing ability to create order and narrative, even from randomness. Athletes do it too. With rituals, they boost confidence through belief, not because the socks are actually lucky. And ultimately, as Decoding Reality really emphasized, that idea of ethical discernment is critical. We have to be careful not to take every perceived message as gospel. Developing self-trust seems more important than just obeying external signs, even cosmic ones.
Okay, I hear you on the scientific classifications and the cognitive biases. I do. But I think focusing only on provability kind of misses the profound value these systems hold for human experience. A value that really goes beyond just scientific verification, you know? Ancient cultures, think of the Dogon people of Mali, with their incredibly detailed knowledge of Sirius, or the Zulu people using lunar cycles for guidance, both mentioned in Cosmic Currents and Ancient Wisdom. They didn't just see patterns. They wove them into their whole way of understanding existence. These weren't just little quirks, they were deep forms of knowledge. So, does the psychological mechanism you described, does it completely negate the impact or the personal truth someone feels? Does it automatically diminish that sense of guidance or self-discovery? The subjective meaning, the comfort itself, that's a powerful force, maybe even vital for well-being and, yes, performance. Look at the examples from The Secret Language of Numbers, Serena Williams' Lucky Socks, Tom Daley knitting. The belief in those rituals isn't about literal magic, sure, but it boosts self-efficacy. It's a coping mechanism, a psychological edge, the unseen 1%, that genuinely translates into better performance. These frameworks, numerology, zodiacs, whatever they offer pathways to soothe, process, integrate really deep emotions. They encourage self-awareness, act as that internal compass. That feels like empowerment to me, not necessarily dictating fate.
And I absolutely agree. The psychological benefits of belief and ritual are real and significant. My hesitation, my core question really, is whether we're sometimes conflating that subjective comfort that boosts in self-efficacy with objective reality or some kind of reliable external guidance. You brought up ancient cultures, and the drive for meaning is ancient, no doubt. But what about how we interpret that meaning today? Think about Kobe Bryant changing his jersey number from 8 to 24, a really moving example from The Secret Language of Numbers. It shows perfectly how numbers become living chapters, powerful symbols tracking personal growth. But that meaning was assigned by him, wasn't it? Deeply personal, incredibly powerful, yes, but not some inherent truth he discovered in the number 24 itself. Doesn't that point more towards our internal narrative making than an external signal?
That's an interesting framing.
And then there's that UCLA study, also from the episode, about jersey number size affecting how we perceive body type. That's pretty compelling evidence of how easily our perceptions get nudged, even manipulated, by tiny details and biases. It shows that a powerful sense of meaning can sometimes be, well, a trick of the mind, a kind of silent persuasion, completely separate from any actual external signal. So how do you reconcile the profound subjective value you're highlighting with these demonstrable ways our minds can essentially create meaning where maybe none objectively exists? Decoding Reality touched on this with the chosen one idea and external guidance. Isn't there a risk that relying too heavily on interpreting patterns could lead us to sort of outsource the hard decisions, circumvent that radical self-responsibility of making our own way, potentially leading to just blind adherence instead of genuine personal authority?
Well, I'm not convinced these experiences are just tricks of the mind or purely internal stories. I think they resonate so deeply because they might actually be tapping into something bigger, something beyond our everyday understanding of reality. Decoding Reality pointed out that fascinating convergence, didn't it, between cutting-edge science and ancient spiritual ideas, all hinting at a much more complex, multidimensional reality. You have quantum physics, with the many worlds interpretation, string theory, the inflationary multiverse, all suggesting multiple realities. And then you look at Hinduism's lokas, Buddhism's bardo, Kabbalah's sephiroth, ancient systems describing intricate cosmic structures. What if reality is that expansive? If it is, then maybe numbers and patterns aren't just psychological blips. Maybe they are signals or breadcrumbs, maybe energetic echoes from unseen dimensions. Think about ideas like soul fractals, parts of a larger consciousness echoing through different lives. Or even timeline bleeding, where influences from potential futures subtly affect us now. Understanding cosmic currents like that upcoming Neptune and Saturn shift into Aries in 2025, discussed in Cosmic Currents and Ancient Wisdom, or engaging with guides, even if we see them as parts of our higher self. Maybe it's not about giving up agency. Maybe it's about accessing wisdom, about unifying these scattered parts of ourselves, becoming more whole, more connected. It's about being open to intelligence beyond just the rational mind.
The parallels are fascinating. I absolutely grant you that. And our understanding of reality is almost certainly incomplete. But I have to come back to the interpretation aspect. Interpreting specific guidance or destiny from numbers or stars, that still largely falls outside what we can scientifically verify. Even if the universe is multidimensional, an idea I find intriguing, the very human desire for chosenness or external guidance, which Decoding Reality explored, often seems rooted in a psychological need for comfort, or maybe, a way to avoid the sheer weight of radical self-responsibility in a complex world. That need exists regardless of how many dimensions there are. Even if signals were real, how would we reliably tell genuine insight apart from our own hopes, fears, projections, biases? It seems we have to balance that desire for connection, for deeper wisdom, with the absolute necessity of critical thinking and personal autonomy. Relying too heavily on external signs, however profound they feel, could paradoxically lead us away from developing our own inner compass. Decoding Reality suggests maybe the truest guide isn't out there at all. It's the fully integrated self, wholeness, that prioritizes inner wisdom, personal discernment, over trying to decipher external tea leaves, doesn't it?
So for me, the enduring human drive to find meaning in numbers and cosmic events, it's really more than just superstition or psychological crutch. It represents something deep, something universal, potentially vital. It connects us to ancient ways of knowing and offers a path towards expanded self-awareness, a richer sense of a multidimensional reality. It's fundamentally about how belief itself shapes our minds, our actions, our very experience of reality in ways we're, frankly, still figuring out. To just write it off as bias, well, I think that misses a huge piece of the human puzzle.
And while I fully acknowledge the power of that subjective experience, the meaning, the comfort, it remains crucial, I think, to maintain critical discernment, recognizing cognitive biases, demanding verifiable evidence where possible. It allows us to approach these phenomena with clear eyes, avoid potential pitfalls like exploitation, and foster genuine personal autonomy and self-trust. That, I believe, leads to a more grounded, resilient self-understanding, one that we truly author ourselves.
It seems that core tension, doesn't it, between objective, verifiable truth on one hand and profound, subjective meaning on the other. It really persists. But, both perspectives clearly offer valuable insights into who we are and how we relate to the universe.
Agreed. And there's definitely much more to unpack in the source material itself in the deep dive, particularly that deep question, how much of us is shaped by these vast unseen forces? And how much is our own conscious choice, our evolution within those currents? Reality, as those episodes show, is incredibly complex, and hopefully our discussion today has shed light on some of that complexity. The debate, powered by NeonKore Media, for stories they said were too real to tell.